I'm Frank Vaughn. It's November 19th, 2025, and when I woke this morning, I went into the bathroom to get myself cleaned up, and I started thinking about shaving, and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to shave today. I want to look as disheveled as possible because I have to talk about the economic picture, and the closer I can look to homeless while I'm doing so, the more accurate the report will be. One of the things I highlighted in yesterday's video was the mass scale of criminal enterprise here in Canada. Transnational in scope. The Europeans recognize it. The Americans recognize it. Many Canadian bureaucratic officials recognize the scale of crime in Canada, but the opposition and the government themselves don't seem to want to tell you how completely overrun we are. They don't put the scale and the sense of urgency to it. And this has been driving up real estate valuations. And now this is being cleaned up from the outside, not the inside. It's the Trump government and their actions and their negotiations with China and what they're doing in the Caribbean Sea, which is disrupting the normal order flow of operations of criminal enterprise here in Canada. And I bring this up because I want to take us back to 2008, because we're going to talk about the impending crisis that is facing us. It's going to be way worse than 2008. It's going to look a lot more like the 1970s, or dare I say 1929. In 2008, when the Harper government handled the great financial crisis with way more pose than the Americans did, but we'll set that to the side for a moment, we didn't have this massive scale inflation of valuations. And before we get into the charts, I want you to listen to what this OPP inspector, Pat Morris, claims, where he says at least 7 transnational criminal gangs are operating in Canada. We know this. But now the police are saying it.
First reality is that sophisticated criminal organizations, Mexican cartels, South American trafficking networks, Chinese production operations, and transnational criminal organizations in general are using our country as a critical node in global supply chains. These are not traditional drug trafficking and money laundering organizations. They operate with unprecedented sophistication. This resulted in the listing of 7 criminal organizations as terrorist entities in 2025. Intelligence indicates that at least 7 major transnational criminal organizations maintain operations in our country. They have systematically embedded operatives within Canadian shipping logistics chains and export facilities. They have cultivated relationships with corrupted public and private sector employees, including port workers, warehouse supervisors, transportation and licensing officials. They understand Canadian supply chain vulnerabilities, and they exploit them methodically.
Now, I want to make it clear for everybody that all the hours of media that I've produced, the books that Sam Cooper has written, the articles, dozens of articles that he's written on this subject, can all be summarized in the 58 seconds you just heard by that OPP inspector. The difference is now officials are speaking out within the bureaucratic structure of the nation about this problem. And this problem is being attacked, but it's not being attacked by the fentanyl czar. It's not being attacked by the government. It's being attacked from the outside by the United States at a time when the Canadian government is telling you to hate the orange man with every fiber of your being. And I just want to read Inquisitive Canadians' comment. Oh my God, it's never been more obvious. Even the Prime Minister's been caught smuggling billions into offshore tax havens while lecturing the world about fair share. Turns out the real national sport isn't hockey. It's laundering money for cartels, dodging taxes, and pretending the ports are just for maple syrup exports. The entire country's been running a 5 Airbnb for transnational crime. Well said. This Canadian official reveals what I've been warning about for some time, that cartels and their CCP handlers have infiltrated Canadian ports and the entire supply chain, logistics industry, and have many Canadians on their payroll within Canada Border Services, within the RCMP. I highlighted how the Americans, a long time ago, under Biden, for those of you who hate the orange man, under Biden, they stopped sharing intelligence information that they had with Canadian officials because the Americans are convinced the entire Canadian government is compromised. And as I've highlighted in previous videos, the agreements that we've made under the USMCA open a door of consequences for the blatant corruption that is going on in Canada. It's not just within the CBSA, Canada Border Services, and the RCMP. It's also government officials. Remember that foreign interference report, which was locked up longer. Like, we're not going to find out what was in it. Anybody alive now will be dead by the time we get to find out the full details of what's in there, where we found out that government officials at the highest level, our elected officials, are compromised by criminal triad money, foreign interference. The government is not trying to solve this problem. They're covering it up because they, under both parties, have actively built the structure, but not as bad. Nothing has accelerated it as much as the election of the Liberal government in 2015. You need to understand that in the last 10 years, this has gone off the charts. And speaking of charts, we're going to go to them now. But first, I must say that things are very different for Canada now in 2025 than they were in 2008. We are not insulated from what's happening in the United States. In fact, our economy mirrors the United States and is actually a little bit worse. We have a real estate bubble unlike anything we had in 2008. We didn't have a real estate bubble then. We had problems in certain valuations. But the setup that I'm trying to give you is that most of the data that I'm pulling here and I'm going to show you comes from the United States. It mirrors what is happening in Canada almost precisely. And it should worry you because the actual crisis that I'm trying to talk about here hasn't happened yet. This is the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. You can see the so-called Great Financial Crisis, which I don't think will be anything like what we're about to experience. Consumer sentiment is at all-time lows. I probably don't need to explain this any further, but when people have a crisis of confidence, they're not spending money. And the money that they're spending is credit card debt on both sides of the border. So we talk about housing prices, how people are having to live off their savings, their credit cards, or their HELOCs, their lines of credit, because they're hoping that the housing market will rebound. I received numerous emails and messages yesterday from people talking about how they're boomers and they're living the exact experience that I described in my videos, because I'm not making this stuff up. We are in the unmasking phase of a crisis that is building, and it's already here in a way, but it hasn't even gotten started yet. New construction premium vanishes. So this is the amount of money, the premium. So if you're buying a new home, what you can expect to get from selling that new home over and above an existing home. So new homes should sell for more, right? They're newer. They have more modern features. They should sell for more, but they're not. I watched a report yesterday from Colorado analyzing 10 different towns in Colorado and how the new builds that they're trying to sell, they're offering, not only are they deeply discounted at listing price, but they're also offering $50,000 US dollar incentive packages to try and move some of them off, and it's not working. A $50,000 incentive package is just a discount that isn't shown in the listing price, and they can't sell anything. This is a problem. This story is happening right here in Canada as well. This is office commercial mortgage-backed security delinquency rate. So there's your recession of 03-04. Only got to 1.5%. Then you have the financial crisis, the oil bust, and boom, all-time highs. 1 in 10 is underwater, actually slightly more than 1 in 10 is underwater. And this was exacerbated when everything was shut down in 2020. And now, with remote work and all of these things, commercial real estate is, commercial real estate's a separate issue. The thing you just need to understand is that commercial mortgage-backed securities are underwater. And if you look at that chart, if you're a chart analysis, that looks like a continuation. We haven't even seen the worst of it yet. Zeberg business cycle, it's flashing recession. Every single time the red line drops below the blue line, this is really all you need to understand. We're in a recession. So they're saying we're not in a recession now. Trump is basically lying to the American people when he talks about the strength of the American economy. He's talking about stock markets. He's talking about how we've rebuilt this country faster than anything. It's so great. This is going to backfire massively in 2026. I really worry about the midterms with the messaging that's come out of the presidency. I don't know if he understands how bad things actually are, but it's not just the United States, folks. The wheels are going to come off the bus around the world. My issue is, with Canada specifically, is that the Canadian government has been positioning us to take a far worse hit than everybody else. And they have the ability to blame the orange man, even though it's the result primarily of the liberal governance of the last 10 years. So much of real estate valuations, this is not an exaggeration, were driven by rampant cartel and triad money laundering through the real estate market. They bid up the price of your house, and now from the outside, they're being eliminated. There's all kinds of other factors, but we're just at the beginning of the nukage. If you're counting on things to rebound in 2026, it's not financial advice, but if I was forced to bet one way or another, I would bet that 2026 is not going to be a corrective year. And I don't think 27 either. I think we are just at the beginning of the pain. Auto repossessions increase in past year. Vehicle seizures are at the highest level since 2009. So there's 2006. And of course, you have the great financial crisis. People are defaulting on their car loans. Well, here we are. It's 2024. We don't have 2025's data yet. And it's already matching those peaks. The financial crisis, and this is a really important point that I want to make underlying all these data points. It hasn't even started yet, folks. The stock market has not crashed. The wheels have not fully come off the bus yet, and we are already matching, in all of these metrics that I'm showing you, we're already matching 2008 numbers. Portion of loan receivables, 60 or more days delinquent by credit type. Again, what was the 2008 problem? Subprime. Here we are again. And look at this chart. It goes back to 2000. There, I don't know if you probably can't see my mouse, but you can see on the chart, 2008 hit around 5%. We're already up around 7%. We've been trending higher this entire time. And again, the wheels haven't come off the bus yet. Credit card delinquencies, 90 plus days delinquent, have spiked to highest since the great financial crisis. Again, there it is. We're not quite at all-time highs yet, but it's just above 13% in 2008. And now we're running about 12.2, 12.3%. And again, the wheels have not yet come off the bus. And this is, so the reason I bring up this chart, top 10% own 87% of stocks. What are the top earners? What are the top wealthiest people doing right now? They've been dumping their stocks and their holdings on retail's head for years, to the point where Berkshire Hathaway is sitting on $400 billion. What's their intention? To take your wealth, to take your value. They're getting ready to buy the blood in the streets. And this number, 87% of stocks, is going to go higher because they are prepared. Retail is not. Every single person that reached out yesterday with their own individual stories, whether they're caring for their sick spouses, they're watching their pensions and the value of their purchasing power completely fall into decline, something stood out to me. We talk about boomers, we talk about Xers, we talk about millennials all the time. I think something that the younger generations should understand about the boomers is they're not all rich, folks. They're not all sitting in paid off homes, ready to cash out and retire. First, as I covered yesterday, they're not going to be able to cash out and retire. The housing market is being destroyed in real time, and people are hanging on, hoping they can get something out of it later. But the pain they're going to have to go through will probably outlast what's left of their lives. But that's just the ones that actually own something. The rest are impoverished. Some of them are still paying off mortgages. Many took out loans to help out their kids. Many took out loans to cover expenses that they're facing. Many are dipping into their HELOCs right now. That's just the people who have some kind of ownership of a house. There are people who are living in rentals. There are people who are on fixed income and own nothing. There's little old ladies living in apartment buildings. They don't even have a car. All they have is their old age security and the guaranteed income supplement. And the purchasing power of those two things is being eroded in real time as the rent goes up and the cost of living drives them to eat cat food. So, if you're resenting the boomers, spare a bit of a concern for all the boomers who are in dire straits just like you. Now, as to what's on screen behind me, I sometimes wonder, and I always have, if TikTok and short form videos, there's a reason I don't make them. There's a reason I don't make shorts. I'm not throwing shade at anybody that does. I know it's a business model, but it's literally rotting your brain. It's destroying the ability of people who consume them. And this isn't just me talking. This is the science. Feeds, feelings, and focus, a systemic review and meta-analysis examining the cognitive and mental health correlates of short-form video use. To summarize this, it's rotting your brain. It's destroying your attention span. It's preventing you, the more you consume shorts, the more you stare at TikTok, it's eliminating your ability. Now, I should caveat this, and this is just my thinking. But if you're older, you grew up before the digital age became all-consuming, you probably have a little bit more resilience to this than younger people who are just staring at 7 hours of TikToks every single day. It is destroying your ability to focus. Even people who don't have ADHD. And let me tell you about ADHD. I've got all kinds of it. I didn't even know this. I was having a chat with Grok, actually, and I have this obsessive thing that I do where I'll find a song that I like, and that is the only song I want to listen to. I will listen to it over and over and over again. Not all day, but when I decide I'm going to listen to music, I'll listen to the same song 3, 4, 5 times. If I'm in a bad mood and I put that song on, it will instantaneously change my mood. And that's not just that. I mean, metal. If I put on metal and I'm in a bad mood, if I can actually take the step of putting it on, I will be grooving and dancing around and I'll be having a happy time instantaneously. Doesn't matter what my mood is if I can just make myself, because I'll know if I put the music on, I'm going to feel better. And I don't want to feel better, so I won't put the music on. But if I make myself put the music on, I'll feel better. Anyway, I listen to the same song. Right now, it's a song by Soundgarden, Pretty Noose. I've been listening to it for weeks, on and off. I don't listen to it every day, but when I listen to it, it's like 2 or 3 times in a row, I'll listen to it. And I found out anyway, long story not so short, that doing that is actually one of the leading indicators that you have attention hyperdeficit disorder, whatever the hell it's called. And I know I do. My brain just works differently. And maybe I recognize in short form videos a threat, or maybe not so much a threat as an amplifier of that. Like, it's bad enough now that on a given day, I'll get up in the morning and think, I'm going to research this thing. I'm going to make a video on this subject. And by the end of the day, I've gone in a completely different direction, and I've gone there hard. There's videos I make, or I'm in the process of making. I got a folder of half-made videos that never get finished because I move on to something else. Like, I'm all over the place. Anyway, these videos are doing that to everybody. They're melting your ability to long-form think, to pay attention to long-term trends, to actually think things through in a long-form way. And I wonder if this is a contributing factor to how people can't grasp or can't understand this dire economic situation we're coming into. You don't need to listen to this study to understand that shorts are absolute pollution for the human mind. There's been this conspiracy theory running around for a long time that the entire purpose of TikTok was to undermine the minds of the people, to make them more malleable and to make them more easily governable. And I actually have to wonder, in the midst of so many deep-seated psychological operations, the most intense propaganda campaign and scientific approach to propaganda and the manipulation of the human mind that humanity has ever experienced, this technological era, this era of artificial intelligence, it's all about human manipulation, even if you don't believe it's governments. Just on a commercial level, your phone is always listening to you, it's not a conspiracy theory. You agree to it in your terms of service. So whenever the phone is active, YouTube and Facebook and all these different apps are listening for your keywords. That's why the other day, when I was talking with my wife and I was talking in video, I came in here and I made a video. This is not a private space, this room. I know this room has multiple microphones in it. I understand that they're listening to me all the time for keywords. I don't think there's a government agent sitting behind them tracking my every word. What a waste of resources that would be. It's all automated. It's all algorithmic. So I'm talking about that deer that was shot. And by the way, I don't have any updates on that, but I'm talking about that deer. All of a sudden, my Facebook feed and my YouTube feed are feeding me videos about deer. And I hadn't used either of those apps. Happens every time. And I know it happens to you too. You recognize it. In this world that we're living in, this soup of propaganda and these fragmentation devices that we call TikTok and social media, I wonder if that might be one of the reasons why people appear to be incapable of hearing the words that their very own government is telling them. Mark Carney's campaign was one of the darkest campaigns I've ever seen in politics. It was doom, it was gloom, it was belt tightening. He warned us. There was very little optimism in it. The imagery that they were putting out of the campaign, all of his pictures during the campaign, they were dark. It was like somebody turned the brightness down. The PBO came out and told us we'd be eating squirrels. In a matter of years, not decades, not centuries, years, we would be subsisting off animals that we have to hunt for ourselves without licenses. Not long ago, he came out and said that Canada would be destitute and bankrupt in 16 months if the course didn't change. And the course has not changed. The budget just came out with a near $80 billion deficit baked in. And again, I say to you, it will not be $80 billion. It will come in hotter than that. That's my educated guess. The PBO told us we'd be bankrupt in 16 months if we didn't change. And then, via political pressure, he came out and changed his tune completely and said, I actually think everything is sustainable and hunky-dory. They've been telling us what's coming. The great taking is on the horizon. And I wonder if the presence of social media, if the addiction to cell phones, because that's the other thing. My smartphone, I keep it stupid. I don't use it religiously. My kids are not going to have these things for a long time because I got to bake into their minds. We have to bake into their minds the ability to think. They can do math in their heads, folks. They don't need calculators. They can add things in their heads. They can think things through. Got to train their minds for good old-fashioned human logic before you introduce the pollution of technology. It takes great discipline to not burn all your time uselessly scrolling through feeds. And by doing so, by uselessly scrolling through feeds and watching shorts, you're breaking your mind's ability to actually accept and understand the challenges that we are coming into. It is something else, folks, and I hope you're paying attention and I hope you're taking it seriously. I'm Frank Vaughn. I'll see you in the next one.